watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. Let's get straight to it. Our top story is some good news that's coming in after deferring a decision on the candidature of senior advocate Saurabh Kirpal at least 4 times since 2018. The Supreme Court Collegium has finally recommended Mr. Kirpal's name as judge of the Delhi High Court. Now, if appointed, Mr. Kirpal will be the first openly gay judge in India. The Collegium said the decision was taken in a meeting on 11th of November. Now, Mr. Kirpal was recommended by the Delhi High Court Collegium headed by Justice Geeta Mittal for the first time way back in October 2017. Post that, in September 2018, the Supreme Court Collegium decided to take it up for consideration after some time. Ever since, it's been deferred a couple of times. The Collegium deferred its decision when it came up again in January 2019 and subsequently in April 2019. Now, the Supreme Court Collegium has recommended his name for Delhi High Court judge. Now, in fact, in an interview with our editor, Faye in April 2021, Mr. Kirpal talks about the delay of his elevation. You can take a look at that interview. We've kept it in the description below. You'll find that link as well. Also in the news now, Delhi government has suggested a weekend lockdown and work from home for a week in an emergency meeting that was ordered by the Supreme Court just yesterday to fight pollution. The Delhi government also recommended that construction and industrial activities in the city be paused. Speaking to NDTV, Delhi Minister Gopal Rai said, and I quote, "We have proposed a weekend lockdown. We are ready for it. Our strategy will depend on the court's directions." Now, end quote. Now, if you remember yesterday, the Supreme Court had rapped the Delhi government saying that there was no basis for a hue and cry about farm fires. And that was because the center told the Supreme Court that stubble burning contributes to only 4% of air pollution. Now, rebuking the Delhi government, which attributes most of the pollution to farm fires from neighboring Haryana and Punjab, the court said, and I quote, "Lame excuses will force us to hold a proper audit of the revenues you're earning and spending on popularity slogans," end quote. Moving on now, the Nainital home of Congress leader Salman Khurshid was vandalized and set on fire on Monday, days after he compared Hindutva to radical Islamist groups in his new book. Now, visuals shared by Mr. Khurshid on Facebook showed tall flames, charred doors, and shattered window panes at his Nainital home. Now, 2 men were seen trying to douse the fire by throwing water. In a post, Salman Khurshid said, and I quote, "I hope to open these doors to my friends who have left this calling card. Am I still wrong to say this cannot be Hinduism?" End quote. An update now in the Lakhimpur Kheri violence case. A UP court on Monday has rejected bail petitions of Union Minister's son Ashish Mishra and 2 others in this particular case. Sessions Judge Mukesh Mishra turned down their bail pleas after the prosecution presented the case diary, 60 eyewitnesses' statements, and ballistic reports of 4 firearms to establish their involvement in the crime. If you remember, on the 3rd of October, several farmers were holding protests against the visit of Uttar Pradesh Deputy Chief Minister Keshav Prasad Maurya to Lakhimpur Kheri district when 4 protesting farmers were killed after they were mowed down by an SUV. Allegedly, the SUV was part of the convoy of Union Minister of State for Home Affairs and BJP MP Ajay Kumar Mishra. Also in the news, the IMD, or the Indian Meteorological Department, has predicted heavy to very heavy rainfall in isolated areas in 8 states or union territories between the 16th of November and the 18th of November. Now, the rainfall is likely over Andaman and Nicobar Islands, coastal and south interior Karnataka and adjoining North Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Puducherry, south coastal Andhra Pradesh, Goa, and Telangana. Let's take a look now at COVID numbers. India has reported 8,865 new COVID cases and 197 deaths in the last 24 hours. This is the lowest number of cases in 287 days. Now, Kerala has reported in the meantime 5,516 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours. Also, US pharmaceutical giant Pfizer has today announced a deal to make its prospective antiviral COVID-19 pill available more cheap in the world's least wealthy countries. Now, according to the Associated Press, the report says that Pfizer will sub-license production of its promising pill to generic drug manufacturers for supply in 95 low and middle income nations, covering about 53% of the world's population. Now, the agreement, of course, is subject to the oral antiviral medication passing ongoing trials and regulatory approvals. On to business news now. Union Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal today has said that India has attracted a record FDI of foreign direct investment in the last 7 years. Now, he added that the trend is expected to continue in the coming years on account of major structural reforms, he said, that's being undertaken by the government. At the event, Mr. Piyush Goyal said, and I quote, as per a recent CII Ernst and Young report, India is the next global investment hotspot, and we have the potential to attract an annual FDI in the range of 120 to 160 billion dollars by 2025. Also, while speaking at SBI Banking and Economics Conclave 2021, RBI Governor Shaktikant Das said that India has the potential to grow at a reasonable high pace in a post-pandemic scenario. Now, he said that there are numerous indicators that suggest that economic recovery is now taking hold, but for the growth to be sustainable and reach its potential, investment in private capital has to resume, he said. He also went on to say, and I quote, India's remarkable progress on vaccines is a shining example of scientific capabilities, end quote. Moving on now, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala backed Akasa Air placed an order of 72 Boeing 737 MAX jets valued at $9 billion at list prices. Now, the low-cost airline received initial clearance from the Civil Aviation Ministry to start operations in October and is expected to begin flying next year. On to what's making news across the world right now. In a virtual summit, China's President Xi Jinping warned US President Joe Biden that encouraging Taiwanese independence would be, and I quote, playing with fire. Amid the China-Taiwan tensions, the US had pledged, if you remember, its support to Taiwan. China sees that Taiwan as a breakaway province to be reunified with the mainland. Now, according to China's state-run Global Times, Xi Jinping blamed recent tensions on, and I quote, repeated attempts by the Taiwan authorities to look for US support for their independence agenda, as well as the intention of some Americans to use Taiwan to contain China, end quote. Now, the White House, in turn, has said that Joe Biden, and I quote, strongly opposes unilateral efforts to change the status quo or undermine peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait, end quote. In the meantime, Bloomberg, citing a report by McKinsey and Company, has said that China has overtaken the US as the richest country in the world. Now, the report says that China accounted for almost one-third of gains in global net worth over the past 2 decades. Now, net worth worldwide rose to $514 trillion in 2020 from $156 trillion in 2000. And according to the report, China has accounted for almost one-third of that increase. US, in the meantime, held back by more muted increases in property prices, saw its net worth more than double of the period to $90 trillion. The report also, in the meantime, highlights the massive inequality in wealth in the world's 2 top richest countries, and both China and the US, more than 67% of wealth is owned by the richest 10% of households. Also, some news coming in from Uganda. At least 3 people were killed and several people were injured after 2 explosions were reported in Uganda's capital today. One of the blasts took place very close to the parliament and one took place near the central police station, according to several reports. Now, according to the BBC, officials have blamed attacks on the Allied Democratic Forces, an armed group based in the DR Congo. Now, a police spokesperson also in an interview with The BBC said, and I quote, "We believe that there are still more members of these domestic terror cells, especially the suicide bomb squad that has been created by the ADF." End quote. That's a wrap here on Just the News. But our positive news today, and a piece of good news, is the fact that Mr. Kirpal has been named by the Supreme Court Collegium for Delhi High Court judge. You can catch that interview, like I said, in the link that's been put in the description below. Thank you so much for watching.